Kingham. I'm the editor of Border Security magazine and a director of the World Border Security Congress and the Border Security Network. We have a great lineup of speakers for you today from our good friends at the Organisation for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the OSCE.
Thanks for the invitation for this webinar. It's a great opportunity to share with professionals or challenges in the Western Balkan, especially when we are speaking about small arms and light weapons proliferation. To make a little bit interactive this presentation, I would like to encourage the 111 attendants to go to the poll. Neil or Tony will introduce the system and try to answer for one of the questions. There are 30 minutes second delay. We will see the answers in 30-second delay. So it's we will at the end of this 30 second or 1 minute. Let's put 1 minute. We will have basically educated guess and educated vote from all of the participants. So I'm encouraging everybody, please open the poll and vote about what do you think, how many weapons per capita are in the planet currently.
The results are in. Can you see them?
No.
On the right hand side. Weapon for every, we've got right, so there's three possible answers. 10 people, one weapon for every 10 people, one weapon for every 50 people, and one weapon for every 100 people. I think it's a very well-educated audience because 71% said that it was 1 in 10.
Okay, thank you very much, Tony, for the contribution. Unfortunately, I cannot see it on the screen. So basically, most of us could manage to find the answer. I guess because you are professionals and you are aware of the importance of the topic and the seriousness of the situation. As you can see, the next slide is basically we can say that that approximately 875 million firearms are in the world, and 75% of these are in the hands of civilians. The number is very huge when we are going to the last data or detail, which is saying that, as you can see, basically every year there are enough ammunition is produced to kill every human beings in the planet twice. So also when we are going a little bit deeper to the statistical figures, we can see that every 1 or maximum 2 minutes, one person is killed by firearms. And here we even did not mention, we did not speak about the injuries which are caused by the firearms. So after this quick outlook about the world, I would like a little bit focus on the Western Balkan, which is basically the topic of our webinar today. As you can see the figures on the Western Balkan, and if we are calculating with the most optimistic number, which is basically 3.6 million weapons in the Western Balkan, we can immediately see that the weapon per capita is, let's say, much higher than the world average. Approximately 1 weapon for every 5 people we can count. And this number is much higher if we are calculating with the pessimistic estimation, which is saying that approximately 6 million weapons are available and circulating in the region. In this case, if we are using this number, and if we are doing a very easy math, we can say that 1 weapon for every 3 person is the capita or is the ratio in the region. So to make it clear to everybody understand it, it means that if I have 3 friends in the Western Balkan, and for example here we are 3 presenters, it means that at least 1 of us has a weapon if we live in the Western Balkan. This is a really huge number, even if we are considering that coming from the nature of our job, most of our friends and most of our contacts are police officers. But still, every 3 person has 1 weapon in the Western Balkan. This is much above the normal or the average in the world. Also, some concerning data which is coming from Europol papers, you can see that approximately, basically the weapons which are circulating in the European Union, in the member state of the European Union, mostly originating from this region, from the Western Balkan region. It is true also for the OCGs, organized criminal groups, mainly those who are dealing with weapon proliferation, weapon smuggling in the Balkan, in the European Union. They are originating from the Western Balkan. So before we are going to the challenges, I would like to share a very short information or introduce the modus operandi which basically used during the weapon smuggling or weapon proliferation. The literature is dividing or distinguishing 6 different modus operandi. These are the illicit production of the weapons. The second is the leakage from factories. The third is the fake exports. The fourth is the conversion of non-lethal firearms. We can speak here about bank or gas firing guns or replicas. The fifth is the recycling, and the sixth is the theft or fraud from legal dealers or private owners or possessors of firearms. When we are arriving to the Western Balkans specifically, we can see that the challenges in the region are basically coming from the huge number of unregistered weapons, which is not strange if we are speaking about 3.6 to 6 million weapons are circulating in the Balkans. There is a very interesting modus operandi in the country, in the region, and we have also experienced, unfortunately, in the Republic of North Macedonia back to 2015. These are the thefts, and these are the attacks against remote police stations. So this, I haven't seen this modus operandi in any other countries in, let's say, it's in the European Union, but in this region, it is happening. I'm not saying on a daily basis, but we have some cases when terrorists or criminal groups attacked the police stations. And the other challenges are, the next challenges, we have to speak about the conversion of deactivated or replicas or blank or gas firing guns, as I already mentioned. Just to put it in a statistical context, in 2014, so 6 years ago, in the Netherlands, 40% of the firearms which were seized by the police forces were converted weapons from already deactivated weapons or blank gas firing weapons. In Sweden, this number is 20 to 40%. And we are speaking here about 2014, which basically 6 years ago data. So unfortunately, I could not find any updated data on this, but I'm absolutely sure these numbers in the last 5 years increased. This is also very interesting. I will mention it for only some second, that the conversion of deactivated weapons played an important role in the Paris attack, in Charlie Hebdo attack, and later on also in Germany. And we have a new issue which we don't know so far whether it's finished now, the COVID epidemic, or it's just a pause. But basically, the COVID-19 epidemic is also a little bit tailored the map of the weapon proliferation, as unfortunately, and I'm absolutely sure you are aware of it because you are also coming from, most of you are coming from the law enforcement services. The police was overwhelmed with not really police or not originally police task. When we are speaking about police forces, police services were withdrawn for the border, were withdrawn from the roads. Traffic police officers, investigators left their desk, and they had to, let's say, just one example, to check the people who, in quarantine, whether they are fulfilling all of the regulations. So this basically increased or give a big possibility to the organized criminal groups to increase their activity in weapon proliferation or weapon smuggling. The nature of the previously mentioned challenges and the introduced phenomena basically makes the Western Balkan as a region of origin and the transit of weapon when we are speaking about weapon proliferation. As you can see in the next slide, basically it is what I mentioned previously. This was revealed by the investigators who were investigating the Paris attack, that the weapons, some of the weapons were originating from the Western Balkan region, and some of the weapons which were used also during the attacks were deactivated weapons or reactivated weapons from replicas or previously deactivated weapons. Also, the red lines are showing, I'm not saying it's a new phenomenon, but it's an increasing modus operandi, or we can find nowadays quite popular. This method is basically, these are the routes, and I'm not saying smuggling routes, these are the routes for replicas or not firearms categorized weapons which are arriving to the European Union. If you want more information about it, I don't want to rob the time because I already speak a lot. You can see a link on the picture on the right bottom side. Please use that picture and use that link, and you will have much more detailed information. So, recognizing the importance of the region, Germany and France started to elaborate a roadmap. This is officially called the Roadmap for Sustainable Solution to Arms Control, which is covering the whole Western Balkan region, and it set out 7 goals. This is the so-called Franco-German initiative, which is fully supported and lately took over by the European Union. I don't want to bore you with the 7 goals, but I would like to change the slide and showing you what is the impact of the roadmap on the Western Balkan. So thanks to the roadmap and thanks to the recognition of the danger which are posed by the weapon smugglers and the weapon proliferation, if we are speaking about the OSCE mission to Skopje, we started to cooperate together with the Minister of Interior Affairs and started to support them in fighting weapon proliferation and misuse of firearms. The mission, together with the respective colleagues from the ministry, very, very good professionals. We had a big luck with our colleagues in the country because it's really hard to meet with such good professional colleagues who really knows the job and the profession. Basically, we elaborated a needs assessment, or we can say that a gap analysis, and we identified 4 different field where intervention would be advantageous. I will speak about it a little bit later in details, but basically during this gap analysis, we identified the problem with the physical security of the stockpiles. I'm not saying there were big problems, but we identified some shortages or shortcomings. Also, the detection capacity, when we are speaking about the detection of weapon, we realized that the canine capacity shall be increased. And also we found some gaps, some lags in the SWIFT cross-border information exchange and in the inter-agency cooperation. So this is very nice like this, but the question is raising when we identified all of these problems, and the analysis, of course, raised the question how these gaps can be addressed and how these gaps, how these lags can be overcome. So the first, as you remember, it was the physical security and stockpile management. As I already mentioned, you remember in 2015 there was an attack here in the Republic of North Macedonia against one of a remote border police station, when various weapons, a lot of machine guns and weapons were stolen. Luckily, the big part of the stolen assets were found in 2 weeks' time, but it raised the issue that there are some border police stations, remote police stations, which are basically lacking the appropriate security infrastructure. So the OSCE mission, following the request of the Minister of Interior Affairs and the government, started to implement, with the financial support of the European Union and then German Foreign Office, a project which is basically aiming to increase the physical security of remote police stations. We are here speaking about 15 plus one, actually 16 border police stations, where we are currently improving the physical security and the ICT security, which means that we are changing doors, we are changing windows, we are installing bars, we are installing alarm system, we are putting these stations to the MOI ministry network, in order, if there is any attack against these stations, we can, or the police can immediately react, they will be immediately informed, and an appropriate response measure can be taken and can be done. Because OSC is always dealing with sustainability, we did not stop here to improve the physical security and ICT security. We also managed to support the development of standard operating procedure, which is which is basically was inaugurated or coming to force in 2018 March. This is a new regulation which is detailing exactly how the weapons should be stored, how it should be managed, how it should be handed over. And also we elaborated a training curriculum, training manual, in order to increase the knowledge of our respected colleagues and in order to adhere the new regulations. This project is already ongoing. We hope it will finish during this year, and we can start the implementation of our new activities, which are basically, you also saw it previously on the slide, that the increasing of the K9 detection capacity of the police services in the country. Here we have to understand that in the country currently there is one central K9 service, K9 unit, which is basically covering the whole country. The project activity aims to create 4 subcenters in the country, which are geographically basically selected in order to reach all parts of the country in 45 minutes. So the quickest reaction and the quickest detection can be ensured by this system. Also, these subunits will cover the green border and the green border protection, and also detection of the green borders, and also detection on the border crossing points. The OSC will support this action by purchasing and handing over various assets, equipping offices, and also with development of standard operating procedure and training curriculum, which is basically will update the regulation of the current regulation on trainings, on deployment of the dogs. Also, there is a very important part of this activity is basically to enhance the regional cooperation. I could manage to participate on a needs assessment visit in the Western Balkan in all of the countries, and we identified a lot of very good professionals who are working in the K9 units, and our intention is to create a floor for them to exchange information, to do best practice brainstorming, sharing best practices, brainstorming and even joint actions to work together on the border. Speaking about the information exchange, we have to accept that no matter how we are increasing the capacity, the detection capacity of several units, basically law enforcement agencies can only work efficiently if a proper and swift information exchange is in place. A current study which was done last year and which will be published during this year revealed that in the European Union, so we are speaking about the member states of the European Union, a lot of police officers are neglecting the official information exchange channels, and they started to use unofficial, informal information exchange channel. We are speaking about web WhatsApp groups, closed WhatsApp groups. We are speaking about Signal or even Messenger, closed Messenger groups, and they are sharing information with each other's personal data, personal information with each other's in order to be able to fulfill their task in an appropriate way. So the problem is quite visible. Currently, if you need quick, swift information in order to do this, to support your decision-making process, or in order to execute your operations in an efficient level, even just let's speak about on the border crossing points, you have a passport and you have some suspicions that you are not, one of the stamp in the passport is fake, you have limited opportunity to check the validity of that stamp. I'm not speaking about the Western Balkan region. It's true for the Western Balkan region, but it's true also for the European Union, for the member states of the European Union. Why is it important? It means that also the modus operandis are not exchanged. The information of the modus operandi of new weapon smuggling moduses or routes are not exchanged in a timely manner. It can say that, I already mentioned to all of you the problem with the replicas. A replica weapon, a replica gun, what is, let's say, produced somewhere in Turkey or any other countries, and which are absolutely legally transported through the Western Balkan and arriving to one of the European Union country, 350 euro, you can convert it, a replica weapon, to a live firearm. So the question, if a police officer on this route where these weapons, where these replicas are smuggled, or not smuggled, but transported, if a police officer on this route stop a car for a regular traffic check and realizes that there are 50 replicas in the car, whether some alarm will raise and whether he will say that something is wrong. I heard about that the replicas are used now to make an activation procedure and make it real firearms. Let's make a report and let's send it to the official authorities. Or we will believe the story of the driver, which is saying that, yes, I have 2 kids, they have a lot of friends, I was in a country where I could buy for very cheap these 50 replicas, and I'm just transporting it legally to the European country. So basically, if we are creating an efficient information exchange system, which is able to exchange information swiftly, promptly, in some minutes, and which is when the addresses are basically can cover the whole staff who are working on the field, it will provide very important intelligence, or it will facilitate a very important sharing of intelligence information. So this activity, what we are planning to do now, is basically focusing on the police and custom cooperation centers, also known as common or joint police centers. I don't know whether the distinguished audience is aware of the existence of these PCCs. Just with one sentence, I would like to introduce their work. Basically, as you can see, within the European Union, there are 59 PCCs, and in the Western Balkans, we can find 12 PCCs. These offices are located on the border, and the big advantage of these offices are that police officers from the neighboring countries are sitting in the same office. And if from one country there is a need for any kind of personal data or data about on vehicle or weapons, basically they are sending the request. The national colleagues are sending the request to their contact center, and the colleague who is working in the contact center just handing it over to his colleagues who is working in the same office but who is coming from the other police forces. And in 5 minutes, they can get a very important answer or very relevant answer in a criminal investigation, or even just in a traffic accident or a regular check, or, as I mentioned before, about new modus operandis or about the validity of stamp in the passport. So these 59 PCCs and 12 PCCs are currently operating, but still there is a lack because they are not using a common information exchange channel or system. So this pilot project is intending to create a secured information exchange network, which will make able the 4 police custom cooperation centers or command contact centers in the country to exchange data immediately with neighboring countries, and also which will help them to exchange data in 3 to 5 minutes with non-neighboring or European Union countries. If we can succeed this will basically provide a very good platform for information exchange, mostly on weapon proliferation or weapon smuggling, but also we know that this platform can be used for all of the other information exchanges. Not to make you bored, my last slide is basically the last activity what we will implement. This is, as you remember from the slide, we identified the problem, some kind of lack in the interagency cooperation. It's not a serious lack, honestly, if we want to be honest, and if we are discussing it with our colleagues in any kind of international conferences, we know that the interagency cooperation is always problematic. Not just in the Western Balkans, but it's also problematic in the United States, even after 9/11, and it's also problematic in the European Union. So what we would like to achieve is basically using the National SALW Commission as a platform to exchange information and to basically enhance the interagency cooperation, which means that all of the ministries, all of the international organizations or NGOs who are involved or who are interested in fighting weapon proliferation will cooperate together. They will create an action plan, and they will work according to this action plan during their work on weapon proliferation. And also we would like to provide them an efficient tool and methodology how to enhance their analytical skill. And based on all of these informations and interagency cooperations, basically we would like to create an awareness raising and prevention, where if everything goes well, we'll decrease the number of the unregistered weapons that you remember from the very first or second slide is basically creating a serious problem in the region. This is from my side. I really appreciate your audience. If you have any question, please do not hesitate to put it in the question and answer box, and I will try to answer according to my best knowledge.